Welcome to Football Conspiracies.
I'm Jared Cole.
And I'm Jared Rabinovich.
This week's episode, Magnetic Gloves.
So, J. Cole, did you bring anything to the table today?
I did. I was online as I usually am, and I found a crazy Instagram reel. There is a potato heir hiding among us.
Like potato heir, like H-E-I-R?
Yes.
Okay.
The NFL has an heir to a potato fortune playing right now, and nobody seems to know. See, Connor McGovern, the longtime starting center for the Broncos and Jets, is the grandson of Ron Offutt. You've never heard of Ron Offutt, but he founded one of the largest potato suppliers in the world. His company farms 55,000 acres and puts out nearly 2 billion pounds of potatoes every year, many of which you consume as McDonald's French fries. Offutt, McGovern's grandfather, is supposedly worth $500 million, which would be one of the richest people in North Dakota.
Man, all of our Irish listeners are like gnawing at the bit right now. Like they're drooling over that story.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Irish, I would too. There's all these potatoes.
I know, exactly. No, we're close to a famine.
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy that, like, you just have, like, a potato heir.
Yeah, I know. It is like, it reminds me a little bit of a player named Pegula in the women's tennis. She is also the daughter of like a multi-billionaire, and she has no reason to be playing the sport either, other than like for the love of the game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, like a potato heir is far more exciting than, you know, the daughter of like some fintech company.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate her. I appreciate him coming out every day when he could just be, you know, gnawing on potatoes and swimming in a pool of $2 billion.
Yeah.
Scrooge McDuck style.
All right, Jared, what potato do you have that's baked for us today?
Wow, beautiful transition. I
Thank
love
you,
it. I love
thank
it.
you.
I appreciate you. Couldn't have asked for a better intro. So today, I'm going to be bringing all of you lovely listeners down one of the most melted conspiracy rabbit holes the NFL has to offer. J. Cole, you got any idea what I could possibly be referencing? Just gotta ask at this point. It's tradition.
I mean, no, because, like, there's so many things that, like, I don't know what could be. If it's that melted, there's no way I know it.
Okay, spit a couple out. Like, what are some of those melted theories you've come across since we started this podcast that we haven't talked about yet on the show?
See, but the thing is, when I'm looking for my stuff, I'm not looking for, like, long things, like deep conspiracies. I'm looking for that quick story, like how
right.
the Immaculate Reception might have been faked.
Yeah.
But, like,
I guess you're right. I'm definitely, like, rolling in the dirt with the piggies a little more than you are, but this one, I don't know. This one, it holds a place close to my heart. I really love it because it showcases all the classic telltale signs that you see in conspiracies. This is really like the creme de la creme of wacky NFL fan theories. Today, we're going to be speaking about magnetic footballs and magnetic gloves.
what?
Yeah, I know. Have you ever heard of this one?
Yeah, I have. It's just as ridiculous as it sounds.
Yeah, like
magnets and balls and hands so that they can catch it easier.
Exactly. Like, I don't think anyone who's listening to this particular podcast is going to be subscribing to these beliefs unless you're some, like, listener out there who's just, like, hate listening, you know? But this one is, as you guys can probably tell before I divulge any details, melted beyond belief.
Yeah, I mean, you have players who have put, like, illegal substances on their hands to make them stickier, and, like, they've been caught doing that, but, like...
Yeah, this is a little bit more out there, if you will.
Very out there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, back when we were watching, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners remember, the roast of Tom Brady, Randy Moss's bit, me and you noticed, as, you know, conspiracy football podcasters, that he had a few details in there that were a little bit, you know, maybe more conspiratorial than factual.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you can take anything that anyone said at that roast as factual, except for Nikki Glazer.
She killed it. That being said, Randy Moss, during his speech, actually gave a bit of a reference towards this theory. He didn't suggest whether he believed it or not, but he did bring up magnetic gloves. So this is shared like an international stage already.
Well, I don't remember this.
Yeah, I think it probably slid by most people. It was a very, very discreet mention, but it did come up.
So I want to hear, like, did players bring balls? Were coaches? Was it the refs? Like...
So, it's a good question, but, like, this theory potentially more than any other we've covered so far, brings to mind like the image of the tinfoil hatted, energy drink addled 4chan user making additions to their proverbial corkboard with pushpins and strings. Like, it's just, there's not much detail or substance here. Are there players who have been accused? Yeah, sort of. Are there refs who have been accused? Kind of. But really, this is just like a mishmash of videos people have found where they're like, oh, I saw the magnets there.
So a true believer of this theory is kind of like Charlie in the mailroom.
Exactly. Like from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's just the perfect conspiracy-addled subject we have here. It's beautiful, truly. So because this theory is so thoroughly melted, it seems the community of believers, I actually in my notes here wrote believers, just thought I should mention that out. Total accident, but... So the community of believers have kind of failed to conjure together one unified, magnified glove theory, as I'm going to refer to it. This being the case, I will, like I just mentioned, not really be able to go into a theory step by step as I would in a typical episode.
Yeah, because this is like a very like baked, twice baked, triple baked theory.
Triple baked might not be enough with this one. Yeah, like this is really just a mishmash I've brought together of, all the theories and proofs brought up by some of these, brave researchers. To be very upfront, this episode is likely going to be a little bit of a mess, but I think that only lends to the credibility of this podcast. After all, we are merely adopting the behavior of those we are studying. The first thing I need to address before diving headfirst down this rabbit hole is that, yes, gloves do enhance players' abilities to make catches. Like, this is not a secret.
Yeah, no, and sometimes you'll see receivers who don't wear gloves, and it makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, exactly. It's also like a negative IQ move. Like, it's on par with, like, not wearing a protective helmet or guardian cap.
Well, some tight ends don't wear it, especially because for blocking.
A tight end I respect. A wide receiver, you're insane.
Yeah, wide receiver. But think about it. If they're like a good wide receiver who doesn't wear gloves, that's like why wouldn't you wear gloves and you'd be even better?
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no downside. They literally like are sticky. And let me give you guys a quick lesson on these gloves because it's gonna be important for a lot of the disproofs I give during this episode. So football gloves are designed in such a way to aid players with grip. It's not a revolutionary thing to say, It makes it easier to hold onto the ball, easier to catch. Back in the 70s and 80s, players did not use gloves. They actually used a substance that J. Cole referenced to earlier called stickum. This helped with grip. It was pretty much like a thick, dark yellow substance reminiscent of glue. That was like really popular among wide receivers and defensive backs in particular.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like someone
makes sense. The people who want to catch the ball have sticky stuff to make it easier to catch the ball.
And like you were mentioning earlier, like if you were a tight end and you were also blocking, like you're going to get stuck to these players, you're going to get residue on like it's really not a good look.
Yeah.
Which is why this is going to be
stick to the wide receivers and defensive backs.
Exactly. Like it's not helpful for you or the defenseman, This is just it really is a practice that is mostly among wide receivers and defensive backs for obvious reasons. So in the late 1980, Lester Hayes, the defensive back for the Raiders, was known to use so much stickum, it was said that it literally dripped off him.
Ugh.
Disgusting.
What's the point of that? Like there has to be where like it doesn't benefit, Because if it's dripping off, then...
Do you want to know the point? I'll tell you the goddamn point. In the same year, Hayes caught 13 interceptions on his way to winning Defensive Player of the Year. That's why you use so much stickum that is literally dripping.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's the only proof we have of someone using this much stickum, so we can't really give any more evidence.
Yeah.
Because in the next year, in 1981, stickum was banned from the league.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, literally, he was quoted as saying, "I could catch a football behind my back on one knee. It was tremendous stuff." Maybe this was going against the spirit of the game a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little.
So as a result of the ban of stickum, manufacturers began designing gloves that were meant to improve with grip instead of using external aids like this stickum. Today, football gloves have come so far that they are often referred to as literally quote-unquote sticky gloves. If you'd like to know more about Stickum and the story of Lester Hayes, I highly recommend checking out Secret Base's video on the subject. I recommend anything by Secret Base, to be honest.
Yeah, they got good shit.
Yeah, they're lovely, big inspiration for us for sure, but this is a lovely little episode they have into the history of football. While I was not able to confirm this next part with 100% accuracy, I found reports that said NFL players will get a new pair of gloves each and every game.
That doesn't surprise me.
I mean...
Like, not even the slightest. But, I mean, like, yeah.
Further reports said that some players will use 2 to 3 gloves in a game, pairs of gloves.
That's a little extreme, but, like, the glove works based off of friction. Like, it's not actually sticky in the sense
That's
that
right.
if you were to, like, clap your hands wouldn't get stuck together. But the second you tried to rub your hands together, they would stick. So, I mean, like, I guess if the friction's wearing off because... But there's no way that, like, the friction wears off that quickly that you need 3 gloves in a game.
I think that's a little excessive, but
Yeah.
1 glove a game apparently is pretty standard. And
That makes sense.
exactly. The reason I bring this up for real is because I think it speaks to the importance of the stickiness of the gloves, like them being in new condition. Like
Yeah.
the moment they're no longer in factory condition, players feel inclined to be rid of them completely, right? These are like a very important aid in football. That's the only reason I bring this up, because it will be relevant later. If you do choose to do any further digging into this theory on your own, or decide to check out any of the videos I will be referencing throughout, I think having this knowledge will go a long way in showing how truly silly these quote-unquote proofs are. The earliest mention I've been able to find of magnetic gloves and balls in football actually has nothing to do with any conspiracy theory. Instead, the first time this idea was put out into the world actually comes from an Indiegogo campaign.
Indiegogo?
Indiegogo is similar to Kickstarter.
Okay.
It's a direct competitor. So it's a
Okay,
crowdfunded campaign.
Okay.
Exactly. For those of you who would like to see the video, we will post a link to it on our Twitter at FB Conspiracies. But for now, I'm just going to describe it because there's not much there that actually it contributes much to this theory.
No, it's just a man catching a football, and that doesn't really come out well on audio.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just for reference, it's just like definitely not an NFL player, like a kid catching balls. They're very impressive catches because, you know, there's magnets in his gloves. But nonetheless, released in 2012, the pitch video begins with a talking head of Colin Leffler, the Minnesota Vikings long snapper at the time, explaining the concept of the new product he's crowdfunding for, a magnetic football and accompanying magnetic gloves. They called the product Ultimate Reception. So I was unable to find literally any information on the product short of one article on CNET and this ad itself. It clearly did not reach its funding goals, and we will never see the product actualized, unfortunately.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah, I guess it's fun for kids, but there's not much use for beyond that.
No, but also, like, for it to be magnetic, it still has to be close, which means you still have to throw it, and you still have to catch it, and it's
Yes.
like, yes, is it easier? I guess not.
Definitely. The idea is to make crazy one-handed catches, things like that, much more possible, because it literally sticks to your hand. Like, if you get your hand on it, you're catching this ball.
Okay.
That's the idea. And while I have no evidence to prove this next part, I have a sneaking suspicion that all subsequent magnetic glove theories, aka the rest of the theories that we'll be discussing on this episode, were inspired by Ultimate Reception, either directly or by proxy.
So, Ultimate Reception is the start of the conspiracy?
I believe so. Like I said, no proof, but I couldn't find any references before 2012, so I think this was the progenitor of everything that we're going to be discussing.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, like it makes the technology
yeah.
does exist. You can't deny that.
No.
right?
Well, I mean, yeah.
The video proves it. It's in 2012, so I find it unlikely that it's a deep fake. But I think it makes sense why theories began being created about this, considering we do know as a fact it could potentially be real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, these are real, so it could, by that logic, also be used in the NFL. I think it's a big leap, but...
Yeah, it's technically there.
Exactly. A to B to C. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And I must also mention, before moving on from this video, that in the video, it explicitly and more than once says that these gloves and footballs would be strictly prohibited in any competitive environment. These were intended solely for recreational purposes.
Makes them even more useless.
That's a good point. The next reference I found wasn't exactly to magnetic gloves, but it was close enough that I certainly think it fits within this episode. In 2014, a publication called Empire News posted an article with the title, Green Bay Packers, receivers caught using battery-powered gloves. Cobb, Nelson face lifetime ban. So, evidently this article was leveling some pretty serious allegations. This report not only claims that the players violated the rules, but they did so in a novel, truly novel way.
Battery-powered gloves, that's a first.
I think...
And apparently a last.
The concept is not very fleshed out in the article, but I think the idea is that it would be battery-powered magnets. I could be totally wrong. Like I said, not fleshed out, but that's the vibe I was getting. So it can be turned on or off depending on if you want them to catch it or not.
Yeah, I guess. This isn't... Who'd you say the receivers were?
The receivers were Cobb and Nelson of the Green Bay Packers in 2014.
This is real.
It's a real article.
Okay.
So, the Empire News article reported that 2 Packers wide receivers, like I just mentioned, Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson, had been caught using quote-unquote battery-powered gloves, or, as the article so cutely refers to them, BPGs. They used them, apparently, allegedly, in a game against the Chicago Bears. According to the report, the gloves worked by...
They don't even need help against the Bears. This is like prime Aaron Rodgers against 2014 Bear. Like, come on.
We're getting there. You're obviously sniffing the bullshit of this article a little before I intended to get there narratively, but you're understanding. So we're going to quote from the article now. According to the report, the gloves worked by...
acting as a magnet when a leather football is thrown in a spiral motion, creating a force of circular bound energy, attracting the leather football towards the BPGs and sticking to them, therefore giving the receiver an unfair advantage.
Okay, so I was mistaken. It does mention that it is magnet, but the reason I think I lost that in translation is because, like, what the fuck was that? That was gibberish.
Yeah, because of the circular motion.
It's like
what?
Yeah, like creating the spiraling motion, creating a force of circular bound energy. What the fuck is circular bound energy?
I mean,
like, I'm no physicist.
Whatever a spiral is.
I guess so. Like. It definitely smells a little bit ridiculous to me, though. And
yeah.
I think for good reason. It kind of, like, this quote kind of reminds me of, like, for those of you who understand this, when someone is trying to teach you how to do a golf swing and they're telling you, like, 80 million different things at once that all sound gibberish. There's going to be, like, 3 viewers who, like, really appreciate that. The article would go on to claim that
an inquiry was made by an anonymous source last month after a lopsided match between the Chicago Bears in late September. The source explained to NFL officials that they noticed when a football was thrown to the receivers that they had difficulty pulling the football away from gloves after the play, saying that they basically had to pry the ball away by putting a foot on the player's chest and yanking it off their hands. The NFL sent a group undercover agents who infiltrated the Packers locker room and gathered what they consider to be significant evidence.
Yeah, so these are pretty serious allegations. What do you think, J. Cole?
Well, I think that if they were battery powered, you could have just turned off the glove and you didn't need to stick your foot on the chest to pull it off. I think that's just the most reasonable way of thinking about this.
Thank you. Literally, like, you just spoke my mind, quoted what I was thinking. This is just next level stupidity.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, Randall Cobb and Jordy Nelson did not get suspended indefinitely, and I knew that, so I was kind of confused from the beginning.
You're definitely right about that. So, fortunately for me, I did not have to do any fact-checking on this particular story. Snopes, a website well known for their role as fact-checkers, has already done the legwork on my behalf. Many Snopes fact checks will lead the investigators on a wild goose chase trying to track down the hard-to-grasp particulars of any given story. In this case, they did not have to go very far. As Snopes points out, in the original article, Empire News included a disclaimer which states that
Empire News is a satirical and entertainment website. We only use invented names in all of our stories, except in cases when public figures are satirized. All other use of real names is accidental and coincidental.
So, really, this just seems like a case of a bunch of people getting duped by an Onion spoof.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's a literal fake news site. Like, I mean...
Well, I mean, can you really say people got duped? Like, did people actually get duped?
There are definitely some people who got duped by this, to the point where Snopes had to put out a fact check on it.
Yeah, I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
Snopes is a pretty serious organization. They're not going to waste their resources on something no one's paying attention to. They're not just, like, finding every lie on the internet. Their job would be impossible.
No, it's just what's popular, and this was popular enough.
So clearly, yeah, like enough people were talking about this that Snopes had to put their investigators on the case. And some gumshoe reporting. Yeah, and like for any of you guys wondering, some more recent articles from Empire News include such gems as only hours after announcing separation from Lisa Bonet, actor Jason Momoa photographed holding hands with SNL's Pete Davidson.
What?
Well, but it's some good content.
That's like the headline for the ages.
It's a beautiful, and another juicy headline they got is cats are superior to dogs in every way. New study conducted by cat scientists confirm. It's good stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any other football-related stuff, so we don't have another, chunkysoupcurse.com on our hand. But it's some good content.
There's that.
Exactly. I appreciate you, Empire News, for giving us a couple laughs.
Yeah.
The next piece of evidence we'll be discussing is also the last piece of evidence I'm going to be bringing up in this episode. And I did intend to cover a few more things, but as you guys know, I'm prone to falling down a rabbit hole, and goddamn did this video piss me off. So this got extended a little further. I think we're going to be doing a later episode pretty soon about more theories of this magnetic glove stuff, because I found a lot more content that we could speak about. But this deserved the coverage I'm giving it, and that is what the rest of the episode's going to be. So I hope you like it.
All right, let's go.
This piece of evidence is a TikTok, actually. It was posted on the 30th of September, 2022 by the user Jake the Asshole Official. Pretty solid username, if you ask me.
I mean, he knows what he is.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. A quick note on this guy. I took a quick look at his TikTok account, and it is completely filled with NFL content, much of it claiming that the league is scripted or rigged. This account is full of juicy stuff, and we are absolutely going to be revisiting it sometime soon, because this is a guy who could potentially be nominated to the apostles of our podcast.
Yeah.
And before we get any deeper into the video itself, I just want to mention how nostalgic it was for me to watch this. This video truly reminded me of like some of the early conspiracy content that I was exposed to when I first started getting into, researching extremism and conspiracy. It's like in the style of melted political conspiracy content released by the likes of David Icke or Alex Jones. Like, it's truly next level melted. And that's why, my overall description for this episode fits so well. I cannot count how many times videos like this have been sent to me by people in my life trying their darndest to pill me. Like, this is like the exact sort of content, like 3-hour videos people send you to be like, watch this entire thing and you'll know all the secrets of the world. You'll understand why I think everyone's a lizard too,
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what? If we're telling these people, you know what? We'll give your conspiracy a try if you send us the proof, and their proof is a 3-hour, 4-hour long video.
Exactly.
I mean, it's good on them for watching it all, but I'm not doing that.
I've done it before, and I've come back with the disproofs, and no matter how much you disprove their stuff after this 3-hour video, they just send you another 3-hour video. There's always another 3-hour video. That's what I've learned. I'm now quickly going to show you guys the first bit of audio from this TikTok video.
The NFL is putting computer chips inside the game balls. Don't believe me? Google it. Now, I discussed in my last video that I believe that these computer chips can be turned into an electromagnet, and thus you can have the ball be manipulated with magnets and technology and cause, let's say, a field goal that was going to be good to bounce off the uprights instead. Now, this isn't the only way that this technology is being used. I also believe that this very same magnetic technology is being implemented into the players' gloves, especially wide receivers, making all those awesome one-handed catches that they routinely seem to make much easier when the ball is sticking to their hands, literally.
So J. Cole, what do you think of this video?
I think it's fully real. He shows proof. He has CGI evidence that must be true.
Exactly.
And I think that the NFL is using computer chips, especially for those field goals. I mean, that was a missed kick. I mean,
know.
how crazy. You never see that in today's day and age in the NFL. Someone missing a field goal, especially when it's important, never happens.
For those of you who don't have the visual reference, there is a clip in the video of a missed field goal where the ball hits the post of the gridirons, and I think the implication is obviously that there are magnets in the gridirons and magnets in the ball causing this to be a miss. And
Yeah.
like he says, these are computer powered, so you could turn them on and off at will. They can decide which kicks are going. They can decide which catches are going. This is a serious operation.
Yeah, for sure.
And keep in mind, you've only seen the first minute of this video. This TikTok is over 6 minutes long. Like, this is completely unreasonable. If this came across my For You page, I would have scrolled past it so quickly, I wouldn't have even discerned what the video was about before I was on to the next one. Obviously, I think it's clear just from the audio that Jake the Asshole Official decided to add a little bit of spice to this theory. Not only are there gloves and balls that are magnetic, the balls, like I said, have a computer chip inside them. Upon making this claim, he implores the viewer to Google it if they do not believe him. Alongside this, he plasters the snippet Google provides when he made the search, quote unquote, NFL uses computer chips and balls. This is great for me. For one, I don't believe him. And for two, he shows the exact Google search I need to do in order to replicate his results. This is like the researcher's dream.
Yeah.
I love this. Unfortunately for Jake the Asshole Official, like most TikTok conspiracists, he probably figured his users were either too lazy, too deep in a doom scroll, or simply didn't care enough to do further research. Well, not this guy. To be fair, I can't blame him. When he was making this video, I don't think he expected some podcast would be created to speak about exactly this sort of bullshit. But here we are, and I'm coming after you. When doing the aforementioned Google search, I did not get the exact results that Jake the Asshole Official did, but in sentiment, it was pretty much the exact same. The sentiment being, yes, there are, in fact, computer chips in NFL footballs.
There you go.
Do you know that?
You know what? I actually did know there were computer
Really?
chips in NFL football. Because there are also computer chips in NHL hockey pucks. Because there's a little thing that Amazon has recently been doing called stat tracking.
Yeah, you got it.
And so they track distance and speed, and you kind of want to know what's going on with the ball. So
I completely agree.
yeah, I did actually know that.
That's pretty cool. I only learned that when I was doing research. But as far as I'm concerned, this is adding to the sport, right? I want these computer chips in the balls. I like stats. I want more.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
More stats, more accurate stats. This is a great development in the game as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, when I'm watching a Fox broadcast and Tom Brady says that whoever just threw a ball for 40 whatever air yards, like,
Exactly.
I care. I want to know that.
Exactly, I agree. So, we've obviously done a little bit of debunking before this, but this would be a pretty wild revelation, providing you didn't look for any more context or, read the following sentence in the article. This is the sentence that I think kind of disproves everything that was being said by Jake the Asshole Official.
In the NFL, RFID systems are strategically deployed to monitor player movements, collect data, and optimize various aspects of the game.
So exactly what you're saying, J. Cole.
It's the only reason to have a computer chip in a football.
Yeah, it's for stat tracking.
Yeah.
Unless you're turning on the magnets.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what their cover is. They just needed something believable.
And I believe them, so they got me.
It serves two purposes. It does do the stat tracking, so we get the stats, and so we're like, oh, it's definitely not fake. But it also does the magnets, and that's why no one actually knows.
Yes.
Except for this guy.
Yes.
Because when you read into it, it's like, oh, it's just for stat tracking. Psh. And then you sit here and you go, well, maybe it isn't just for stat
who
tracking.
knows? This article from Stephen Harden on Medium also taught me that players wear 2 FRID tags themselves.
I would assume on
Yeah.
their chest and their helmet?
That's actually wrong, but, for purveyors of this theory, too, if you guess gloves, guess what? You're also wrong. One RFID tag is placed in each of the player's shoulder pads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, you think if these were magnets that could be turned on at will, there might have been a mistake at some point where you'd see a ball stick into a player's shoulder, but I'm yet to see that. So obviously in this theory that's being proposed, he believes that the magnets are being put in the gloves, as well as the ball, RFID tags, turn on and off. Pretty simple. This is the info laid out in the video's intro, which we played for you guys and lasts about 1 minute. But like I said, this video is 6 full minutes long. What happens in the rest of it? The next minute and a bit of the video...
One sec, were you forced to watch this entire 6-minute video?
On double speed, but that's 3 minutes of my life I'm not getting back. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's not the longest video I've ever had to sit through for this, but it's definitely the longest completely melted video I've had to sit through. So the next minute and a bit of the video is literally the Ultimate Reception Indiegogo promo video we discussed earlier. Like, copy and pasted, with no additional commentary, no edits, no captions.
So his proof is... You know what? Then goes back to the beginning when you said that they might be the origin of the conspiracy.
Exactly.
This makes sense. Yeah.
I actually wrote that line before I ever found this video. So, yeah.
So that it adds on to your thoughts.
I know, I'm just prognosticating here. It's great. After this literal rip of the Indiegogo promo video, and when I mean that they ripped off the video, I mean it literally starts with the talking head of Cullen Leffler that I mentioned earlier. Like, it starts from the first second and plays like a minute and a half of it.
Yeah,
It's beautiful stuff.
That's amazing content.
And this is the truth of what a lot of conspiracies turn out to be when you keep digging further. I think there's so much evidence and bullshit out there that you can read that seems legit, but when you get to the core of it and, you have someone who's willing to actually put in the effort to disprove it, this is what so much conspiracy turns out to be. Like, football, non-football, political, serious stuff, non-serious stuff, so much of it is some guy who put together this shitty video that could be disproved with literally just looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, that's conspiracies for you.
Exactly. It's just, I don't know, like a meaning I think that should be it's just a lesson I think that should be taken from this episode. No matter how stupid or silly a theory is, it's the same nuts and bolts that create it as something that is pretty serious and actually has real effects on the world.
Yeah.
Back to the video now. After the complete rip of the Ultimate Reception promo video ends, he cuts in a news report on sticky gloves, the gloves that we were discussing earlier, that are used by literally every NFL player who catches balls. Pretty much. Not literally every, but essentially every. This video, this news report, it's a local news report on sticky gloves, takes up over 2 minutes of this video.
2 minutes. So you have a minute and a half. That's the promo video for Magnetic Glove product that never got made.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
And then you have 2 minutes of
2.5 minutes.
Oh, sorry. 2.5 minutes of a newsreel, you said?
That's right.
Of them talking about the gloves that NFL players use today.
That's right.
So why this isn't actually a 6-minute video?
Yeah, it leaves about 1 minute at the beginning for an intro and about a minute and a half at the end for an outro, which we're obviously gonna get to shortly. But I just need to make this point further. Like, this report, this news report that's edited in is also literally just clips of the reporter making catches using the gloves, and like local people from the high school like also catching making crazy catches using sticky gloves when they couldn't make those same catches with no gloves. Like, it could not be a more obvious puff piece, and the fact that it's being used as proof in a conspiracy, like, this guy who did the report would be shocked.
Hear me out. You never know what puff piece is going to make it big until it's out there. Like, for all you know, it's just a puff piece, but maybe in the background, or maybe you were talking about something. Maybe you did something that deserved further notice. And this time, it truly happened. High school kids caught a football.
No, I guess you're right. Like,
We've watched high school football.
You're right. You're right.
One team can play and one team can't.
It's a pretty entertaining time. Yeah. But I guess you're right. I got to look at this in perspective, and I guess my trash is Jake the asshole official's treasure. So, as J. Cole alluded to earlier, the last minute and a half of the video is the outro. And at this point, we have finally made it back to Jake the asshole official's narration. I'm now going to quote the beginning of Jake the asshole official's outro. Being that the magnetic grip technology has been proven to exist, I'm going to consider that the NFL does, in fact, use this technology in pivotal moments of games so that wide receivers, for instance, can make these amazing one-handed catches. People can say what they want about the NFL rigging games with refs. I say that they rig games in a multitude of ways. You could have refs throw bullshit flags just as easy as you could have a wide receiver make a fantastic one-handed catch with his magnetic gloves.
That is my favorite quote I have ever heard.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite quotes, if not my favorite quote from this entire podcast we've done so far. Like, it's beautiful.
My God.
Yeah, like, I don't think I'll ever get over being that this magnetic grip technology has been proven to exist. I'm going to consider that the NFL does, in fact, use this technology in pivotal moments of games. What?
Yeah. Wow.
Like, because something exists, it must be used.
Yes. Because that is the logic. That is the proof. That is the science.
Negative critical thinking skills have gone into this theory. Like, I literally think that this guy had to, like, dumb himself down in order to write this. He ends off the video by saying that every person, whether player, coach, or ref, is in on the NFL rigging. They're all guilty. Crazy.
Wow.
Especially...
Okay, hear me out. If everyone's rigging the game, no one's rigging the game.
You know what? You make a good point. I'll give you that.
Like, if Coach A is rigging it for himself and Coach B is rigging it for
Coach
B,
A. Yeah, I guess you're right. That it kind of does counteract the entire point. But we do know that this is a theory that not only Jake the asshole official holds, that every single person in the NFL's in on it. I think it's one of, like, the silliest theories that you could possibly have in terms of the NFL, but it's pretty popular and has been gaining quite a bit of popularity in the past year or so.
Yeah, I don't blame it for gaining popularity.
Oh, I definitely do. It's absurd. After claiming this, he comes out with a plea to the people who don't believe him. Obviously, my ears perked up.
Mm-hmm.
He claims that some former players have come out and claimed the league is rigged. This is his proof for it.
Okay.
He once again follows up this claim with if you don't believe me, Google it. Pfft, love it. Thank you. I appreciate the challenge, man.
Did he post a...
It wasn't a Google search like the last one, but he did put a screenshot of an article.
Okay. Did you find the article?
I could not find the exact article. I couldn't find the exact
fair,
one, but
yeah.
I found articles on the same subject. And let me just add, like, I don't feel as inclined to tear apart this claim because it's so generalized to the point that it's essentially lost any meaning. Like, oh, there is a former NFL player that believes the games were rigged? Like, obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot of former NFL players, and 95% of them have CTE.
Exactly. And not only that, like, of course there are NFL players who have claimed the league is rigged. I'm going to be the first to say that. Like, not most, but a lot of the content for this podcast only exists because of that. Because of former players coming out and saying that the game is rigged. We have several episodes that are pretty much only based on that. Super Bowl 3, for example.
And Super Bowl 37. Yeah, it's like, for all we know, it's some, like, second string left tackle from, like, Oakland.
Well, I was actually able to track down who it was. It was pretty easy because it was in the screenshot of the article that he left. But the article that he left, that he flashed up on screen, was titled, quote-unquote, "Former Bucks defensive back Dwight Smith claims all Super Bowls are rigged." I thought you might be interested in this. You ever heard of this?
No, I haven't, actually.
Really?
Yeah, when did this article come out?
This article came out in 2021. It's not actually... The proof of it isn't actually the article. The article he posted is just reporting on the incident we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And like I said, I could not find the specific article written by someone with the sobriquet SG King. Could not find it for the life of me. I have no idea what website it was posted on. Either way, I assume it is reporting the same thing that
Exactly,
a bunch
yeah.
of other articles were on the same subject.
Yeah.
And this incident is in February of 2021. Dwight Smith went on a radio show called Radio Row, and we will now quote from the episode description released by the radio show itself.
Buccaneers Super Bowl champion Dwight Smith joined Ronnie and T. Crass on Radio Row at Super Bowl 55 in one of the most bizarre interviews to ever happen on WDAE. As the former safety said that there is no home field advantage, every Super Bowl is predetermined, and the Bucs' lone Lombardi win in 2003 is not legitimate because the Raiders were forced to lose. Among other interesting comments, listen to it all here and make up your own mind. What?
It's just the description for the radio show. Like, clearly he said some salacious things, so they were gonna put that in the description. They're trying to get viewers.
Yeah, okay, it's very clickbaity.
Of course it's clickbait, right?
Okay.
It's SEO, they're just trying to get eyes. I respect it.
I'm trying to listen to it all here and make up my own mind.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, I mean, I did not admittedly listen to this entire radio show.
But I want to hear, you got the quote, though.
The quote was like a long conversation. I did not get any specific quote.
Okay.
It is literally just them talking about how it's rigged. He doesn't seem to have any real evidence. He's pretty much just like...
Obviously, he's just like, oh yeah, like they... Did he even say, like, they told us to win? Like, come on. Like,
Yeah,
what do you
it's
mean?
weak tea at best. This is how I'm going to end this off. You know, Jake the asshole official... Next time you're looking for flimsy evidence given by former NFL players that the league is rigged, man, come to me. I can give you some way more juicy tidbits than this. After all, if you're completely fabricating all your evidence in the first place, you may as well cite some more compelling bullshit than this.
Yeah, 100%. Like, come on.
Exactly. Like, it's lazy work, and it's a problem I've had with a lot of conspiracies throughout my time. When you dig down to the roots of it and you get to the actual proof, the actual nitty-gritty evidence, it's like, seriously? Like, you couldn't have spent more than 20 minutes, like, clipping together a couple articles that are, like, this easily disproven? It's sad stuff, truly.
It's almost like people who believe in conspiracies or a broad range of conspiracies have trouble with critical thinking.
I don't think that's generally true. I think there's a lot of really well-adjusted people with fine critical thinking skills that have been pulled down a rabbit hole one way or another, because this stuff is dangerous. It's intoxicating. And there's a lot of conspiracies that I think people are called stupid for believing when there's actually a lot more behind it, a lot of like societal pressures that get you there. That being said, I'm not sure I would include this theory among the ranks of those.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a left field theory.
A left field theory if I've ever seen one. And like I said, we're going to be having some more magnetic glove theory in the near future, because this was a pretty big well of content, and you know I'm going to suck it dry just for you guys.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode.
You can find us on Twitter at FB Conspiracies, where we will post all the graphics and links we spoke about during this episode.
You can also reach us by email using fbconspiracies@gmail.com.
A special thanks to Blaze for the music.
If you enjoyed, consider leaving a review.
Join us next week for more football conspiracies.
Is it going? Welcome to Football Conspiracy.